So, friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance. For what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dave. Thanks for joining Bob and I for our podcast, Thriving in Dystopia. And even though we always try and be professionals, sometimes we swear. So just know that going in. With everything's lost, the battle is won. No, that's wrong. With all these friends that I've... Oh, man, I really should have looked up the lyrics to that one.
Line?
Julie? Line? Anybody? Oh, gosh. Hey, we got Danny C back with us. Love to have you here. We have just been having a whole mess of audio issues, but I think we're all here and we're all ready to talk. And I am so curious. Me and Bob, while we were waiting for Dan to get his mic checkity check, we were talking about bands, top 5 favorite bands. Dan, I am so curious. Is Phish, Radiohead, or Rage Against the Machine in your top 5?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Oh, is that your top 3?
Well, now let's backtrack a bit. The way you phrased the question.
Yeah.
I understood it as are one of those bands in my top 5. It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Dave, can you rephrase the question?
All right, Dan, how many times have you seen Phish on New Year's?
On New Year's? Might have to phone a friend for that one. Probably 3 or 4 times? 5 times?
Oh my gosh. You're a Phish head, aren't you?
Dave, I'm definitely a Phish head.
Oh, yes. All right.
I'm not a cheese head. I'm a Phish head.
Dave, could you please rephrase the question as you phrased it before?
Oh, well, someone take over. Bob, what was the question?
Okay. It's a simple question, actually. It's, Dan, could you give us your top 3 bands of all time?
Oh, geez. That's not a simple question, Bob, but I'll give it a go. I'll give it what's coming to me right now. Okay?
Yeah.
It's going to be Led Zeppelin's going to be in there.
Oh, Kashmir, huh?
Kashmir.
As if you could reduce them all to that song.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, that's the one that gets you going, though, isn't it, Dan?
That's the one. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da.
Oh, I'm glad we got the condenser mic plugged in for that.
Okay, and what else? What other 3? Gosh, oof. I think Radiohead might be in there. I mean, they've got a lot of good albums. I mean, okay, that was my class. Like, if you asked me that question, whatever, 12 years ago, Phish, Radiohead, Led Zeppelin, who else? Hendrix, I don't know. Rage Against the Machine. But you know who I've been listening to a lot lately? Bon Iver, definitely. My guy Justin Vernon, that's way up there. That's it. If that's my go-to right now. If they could say you can listen to one more album before you die, I'd play Bon Iver.
Which one?
Self-titled.
Yeah.
It's the second album.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Not for Emma, huh?
No,
the second one is better. Absolutely.
I kind of like his third one, though, with all the weirdness.
Yeah, that's a great one, too.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Oh,
so man. You know what he's been up to lately during quarantine, right?
Is he back in the woods in upper Wisconsin?
Yes, he's in, I think so. And he's been partnering with T Swift.
Oh, my.
What?
Wow.
Dang. Titans of SWAT right there, huh?
But wait. This is perfect for you too, because it's not just Justin Vernon and T Swift. There's another guy involved in the project. What's his name? Aaron Dresden from the National? Little band called the National.
The baritone?
The voice?
No, the brother of the voice. I think he's the brother of the voice. I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's pretty good. Wait, where are they all holed up? That's what I want to know.
Upstate New York. Well, okay, so Vernon stayed at home because of the pandemic, didn't travel. But then you got T Swift up in a cabin in upstate New York with this guy, Aaron. I don't know why I'm blanking on his last name. Aaron Dessner.
I'll get it for you.
Yeah, go grab it. And then this guy from this is great. A lot of connections here. The guy from he's in a band called The Bleachers now. I think he's like a producer, works with a lot of people, and he was also the guitar player for the band Fun. His name. What is his name? You know who I'm talking.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know Fun.
Jack.
I remember Jack. It
Jack
is
Antonoff. Okay.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
Dresner. No, it is Aaron Dresner. Is he married to T Swizzle?
No.
No. Okay.
No. She's dating this actor. I forget his name. But here's the other man. I'm going deep here. So he's an actor, but secretly a musician. And he wrote a song or two that's on the album, and under a pen name called like William Bowery or something. Oh, I'm just messing this up for all the T Swift fans. I'm going to get destroyed.
Don't worry, we have very few of those on our audience base.
Yeah. Wait, Dan, did you listen to the band Local Natives?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that Aaron Dresner produced all their albums?
Really?
Yeah. He produced a lot of Taylor Swift's albums, as well as Frightened Rabbit.
Frightened Rabbit. Wow, that's one I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I know them.
I think Albert listened to them.
Frightened Rabbit, Scottish indie rock band from Skelkirk. Okay,
wow.
Let's go way back. So we got here's my next question. Are the Red Hot Chili Peppers in your top 10, Dan?
Wow. The Chili Peppers in my top 10. I don't think I can say no. No.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Out on a ledge there. Is there any other top 10 bands that you'd like to be once and for all? Finally, just say it right now on the Narrowcast.
That they're known.
Yeah.
That are known.
I mean, known to be on Dan Cantrick's top 10, you know? Because that means something.
It does.
Okay. Well, yes, there definitely are some. Let me think about this. Well, if you have to, okay, here's the question. If you really have to think about it, you know, is that really a thing? Maybe those bands I named are the bands. Maybe that's it for me. Maybe I stopped listening to music like 12 years ago.
Yeah. You just started listening to gypsy jazz, right?
Yeah, a lot of John Jorgensen, a lot of a lot of that great underground stuff. Oh, here's a band that would definitely crack my top 10.
Yeah,
the Dawes.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking that.
Of course,
when you were going on that 6 Degrees a second ago, I was waiting for Taylor Goldsmith to get on that list somehow. On that project.
Yeah.
Somehow get Taylor Swift up to Utica.
Yes. Utica.
Or somewhere upstate, you know?
Yes. Who else? Disclosure, Lumineers. Those are two more modern bands that I don't know if they crack my top 10, Tame Impala, but in the last 10 years, they might be in my top 10.
Yeah. Top 10 of the last 10.
Would have been like the most recent to crack my top 25, but not my top 10.
Top 25. Wow.
I will say that Julie Peachtree just turned off the podcast after hearing both of you declare that Tame Impala cracked the list.
Wow.
Yeah. Future Julie Peachtree is going to be pissed off that Tame Impala is even being on this discussion.
Well, future Helen Maisler turned this off 6 minutes ago.
Yeah. She's like, where's the content? Where's the poetry?
Where's the content?
Yeah,
well, okay, before we change subjects, can I just rattle off a bunch of bands that I'm listening to that I like that I just want to get the big interest?
I mean, that'll get Nick Lane right back on this thing.
Yeah, all right, Nick Lane just turned it way up.
That's who I'm doing. That's who we're potting for, okay? This is who, okay, ready? James Blake, Frank Ocean, Wolfpack, Oregon, Breakestra, Daft Punk, Sylvan Esso, Childish Gambino, Lucius, Santa Gold, the Tune Yards. Oh gosh, Soul Live.
Soul Live.
Oh, yeah. Here's a couple. I don't know. I'm not going to say those because I only listen to like 3 of their songs. Yeah. Let's leave it at that. That's just a quick rattle.
That's a good rattle.
Yeah, it was getting me going.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and re-listen to this and start a playlist. And actually, probably Bob, you'll start a playlist and share the Spotify.
Yeah, I'll get this on the show notes for sure.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Nice.
You use Spotify? Is that your?
Well, Google Play just closed down. Did you know that?
No,
it got like bought out by Amazon. Is that right, Bob?
No, it's on. Like they moved it to YouTube, so something. Maybe I think Google owns YouTube, and they just like moved it onto YouTube.
Wow, Google owns YouTube. Jeez,
what?
I think
that's true. But here's another question. All right, why is it that we can't name the head guy of Google?
Yeah,
it's like 3 guys. It's 2 guys, and then this like shark guy, like this business guy. That's the head of Google. These 3 dudes.
Wow.
So I did hear that French guy come up this week, Dan, that you talked about last week. Do you remember his name? Was that on the Narrowcast that guy came up? The like 100 centibillionaires, is that what you called them?
Wait, no. Is this? It's not ringing a bell. This was on the Narrowcast.
I don't think it made the Narrowcast.
Okay. Well, weren't we trying to name the top 5 richest people in the world? Was that? Or maybe that was just a phone call we had, Dan.
Yeah, that must have been.
No, that wasn't me. That was not me.
Oh no!
Was it?
Also wasn't me.
Well, I've literally talked to no one else. Okay. Someone was telling me about the 5 richest people on the planet, and the Google guy was not on there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't even know who they are. I could name Bezos and Bill Gates and
Tesla.
Oh, Tesla. Yeah, Elon Musk.
Yeah. There's some French guy that someone was telling me about. I thought it was you. So whoever that was, sorry.
Not me.
Maybe it'll come to you by the end of the cast.
Yeah. Who I was having this conversation with. Gosh, who knows? It doesn't really matter. Anyways,
this is all going to get cut.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it stayed.
Oh, beautiful. Well, that was exciting. I'm pumped to hear about all the music, and I think unfortunately we gotta get rolling on the real stuff. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, I mean it's some good real stuff.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, this is good real stuff. I mean, it would have been better if we had said Vampire Weekend, but it's all right.
Oh, yes. Can I just throw in my morning jacket? I just want
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little yim yames.
Wow.
Yim yames.
Wow.
Yim. I don't know if I'm going to be able to reel you guys in, am I? Okay. Well, here's the plan. Here's the plan for today. We got some good poetry. We don't have any bumper stickers this week, unfortunately, but that's all right. We're going to try and get right back on that discussion of where we left off last week with activism and poetry and putting them together. And I am super curious to go down the path a little bit of some of the anarchists from Germany, and we have some nice activism poetry in the sense of like, what did you call it, Dan? Eco-poetics?
Eco-poetics, yeah. I'm curious if we can talk about that, what that means. What is eco-poetics?
Yeah, maybe we should just start off there. Does that feel all right to y'all?
Yeah.
As long as we get to the Germans later on.
Okay. Yes. Right. Yeah. And is there any other thing that I'm missing that we want to hit on this week? I thought there was a third little poetics that we were going to hit this week.
We chatted a little bit about Claudia Rankine last time, but if there's time, love to hear more of Dan's musings on her.
Yeah. Perfect. And then for maybe a tag at the very end, I'd love to get like 16 through 23 on Bob's top 25 artists of all time.
I've got a catalog. If we don't get to that, it'll make the show notes.
Great.
Good. Love that. All right, Dan, why don't you get us fired up with some eco-poetics and start modern, go backwards, you know?
Well, so I was thinking about this morning. Like what is eco-poetics? You think of poetry. I mean, nature shows up in poetry everywhere, right? In these love poems, comparing a kiss to a rose. Maybe that's a Seal reference. I love it. But so I was like, and then I also think of I also looked up eco and the etymology of eco and where it comes from. And one of the things that I saw is that eco basically means it comes from a Greek word for house, or household. And so there's this thought of like ecology is the study of the house. You think of the earth, you think of it as as a house, as a place where we live. The earth, something that we're on. And I got thinking about, all kinds of different views and definitions of ecology, of, often people talk about the ecology of their direct community. And you're not necessarily talking about plants and animals and fungi. You're talking about Bob and Dave and the dynamics they have, to make up the ecology of our friend group. And so it's so broad. It's so you could talk about eco-poetic. I feel like you could really talk about eco-poetics in all different ways. So I was like, well, what separates it? Because when you hear a poem, what makes it an eco-poetics poem? I was just trying to think of some stuff, and something that was coming to my mind is that it's like, I guess when I'm talking about a practice of poetics, I'm talking about something that's active and it's interrogating, it's looking into, it's exploring. It's not just, I think mostly poetry is always doing that. But when I think of like an eco-poetics poem, to maybe separate it from like a classic, Chaucer love poem that references nature a lot, is that the eco-poetics is thinking about language in a way that is that's like critiquing our surroundings. You're thinking about our house, our household, whatever that means to you, and you're trying to use language as a way to investigate it further. And I found this. I found some stuff that. Are you all familiar with Gary Snyder?
Yeah, and actually, he's a wobbly, so that harkens back to last week.
Oh, great!
Interesting. Yeah, never heard of him.
Yeah, well, he's a a very well-known kind of like nomadic poet that was really really known like nature poet and would write about the natural world a lot. I think he definitely had ties to San Francisco at one point. I think of him as like a West Coast or a left coast type of writer, and fringely and definitely like tied in with the beats, and a Zen poet. I know he had a strong Zen practice. And he was talking, I was reading something about him, and he was talking about how, science, while science, of course, is very crucial to our understanding of the world and very important, what can happen is we start to like intellectualize the natural world around us, and we try to place meaning on everything. And we try to do so from a scientific lens because science says X, Y, and Z. So this has to be that. And I think what Snyder was talking about is that by coming in with those types of constraints on the world around us, you miss out on all these other possibilities of how the natural world can show up and be defined. And it's actually bigger. The natural world, like being like earth and nature and everything, is bigger than anything that the human brain can wrap its head around, is what he was trying to say. And so eco-poetics tries to dismantle that that process where you try to categorize and compartmentalize nature through a classic understanding of what nature is. He tried to approach it from a place that would completely disrupt that and be open to any possibility of what the world can teach you. And specifically, one thing he mentioned that I thought was great is like, as humans, we are a species, right, that have senses. So we have taste, smell, touch, all these things. But they have their limitations. There's very limited. And there's things in nature. I mean, let's take a dog, for instance. Their sense of smell could blow human sense of smell away. And so like if they could talk, if they could define this stuff, like the way they experience nature is completely different from us. And we have to be open to the possibility of what our limitations are. And that's what he would try to explore in his eco-poetics practice.
Damn, that is fiery. I love where you just got off, Dan. That theory is blowing my mind a little bit. I don't know if I can quite wrap my head around it quite yet, but even just the word poetics, the idea of like, as you put it, a little bit more like the action, it's a little more active than poetry, right? Or it's a little more like philosophical and like more analytical, which I feel like feels right up my alley, and kind of like looking at the world from that theoretical action perspective feels interesting to me. And I'm also curious, do you have examples? Do you have writings, any eco-poetics that you want to share with us? Because I feel like sometimes to grasp it a little bit more, we need that raw example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I do know what you mean. Let me see. I can pull up let me pull up a Gary Snyder poem. He has a collection of poems called Rip Rap and Cold Mountain Poems that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to see if I can find a selection from that. Okay, so let's see. And, what I appreciate about things I've read from Gary Snyder, too, is that it's very much, this is somebody that is very concerned with language and all the inner workings of language and how it can shape our world and our view. Okay, this is okay, and remember, he has a Zen practice, right? So he's coming from that type of lens. I found this like short one that I think kind of fits the category of what I'm talking about. Whereas, like, just because a poem mentions nature, is it eco-poetics? Let's see here. Okay, how about this one? Here, I found one. Okay, so this is Gary Snyder from Rip Rap Cold Mountain Poems. This poem is called Thin Ice. Walking in February, a warm day after a long freeze, on an old logging road below Sumas Mountain, cut a walking stick of alder, looked down through clouds on wet fields of the Nooksack, and stepped on the ice of a frozen pool across the road. It creaked. The white air under sprang away. Long cracks shout out in the black. My cleated mountain boots slipped on the hard slick like thin ice. The sudden feel of an old phrase made real. Instant of frozen leaf, ice water, and staff in hand. Like walking on thin ice, I yelled back to a friend. It broke, and I dropped 8 inches in. So, that's like a lot different than an activist poem that we read about the Spanish Civil War. And I'm trying to read that and think there's a lot of images that come to mind, but I'm questioning, like, what is he saying by these images? What does it mean? He references the Sumas Mountains. Where are those? He fell into this. I have the whole image and picture of it, but like, what else is trying to be said there? That's what I'm thinking about, and maybe nothing.
Yeah. Like what? It's also interesting, like sometimes with art and with poetry, you need the context a little bit more. And I feel like knowing that Snyder is this like environmental activist and that he is like a Buddhist, and like, I think having that in mind gives a different context to the poem you hear, and it sort of is bringing, and what you said about, eco-poetics and how they are trying to turn like the idea of what we sense as the environment on its head a little bit is kind of interesting to me. And I feel like, how many senses did he evoke in that poem,
Right. Totally. Yeah. And, there's like what we talked about, Claudia Rankine wrote this, amazing book of poetry, prose, kind of a hybrid. I think that it's sometimes described as an American lyric, about experiencing the world as a person of color, and interrogating whiteness and the impacts that it has on the world, and how a black woman living in America, all the different things they experience. And to me, that could be labeled as an eco-poetics poem. She's describing in a lot of the work, you get a very clear visual of the city, of these neighborhoods that she's walking us through and visualizing. That to me is an ecosystem that she has set up, and then she's critically examining it.
Love it. Nice. Yeah. Well, I was also hoping to share a little bit of this poem that definitely harkens similar ideas. It is a poem that has always kind of touched me. Is that all right? And we can just sort of take an eco-poetics lens to it. I don't know if it necessarily is, but it feels that way to me. This is called, it's a manifesto, and it's the Mad Farmer Liberation Front by Wendel Berry. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read until it feels right. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance. For what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the question that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into mold. Call that profit. I'll just leave it there. But I really love that poem a lot.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. Like hearing it, I'm like grappling with these ideas for the first time, and for me, this Eco-poetics is about like a certain like relationship within the poetry of like the poet to the whatever the environment is, and sort of showing the relationship. And I think that's why Claudia Rankine's work might be Eco-poetics. And so it's kind of like Eco-poetics is maybe both a technique and a overall stance or like way of being in the world and writing about the world. For me, the Wendel Berry like brought some of that in towards the end of that poem, whereas the Snyder was like kind of in that the whole time. And for me, this isn't like a marker of quality, but more just like an observation. But maybe that gives some fodder for Dan to speak to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like understand where you're coming from about these two poems are, that we just heard are starkly different to me. And one is like this. I mean, it's called a manifesto, right? So it's a call to action. It's like this, all the different things manifesto evokes: uprising, change, action, and get to work. And there's a piece of that is very, to me, feels activated. Like that's what we were talking about as like a poetics versus a poem or poetry. And it didn't, when you hear the Wendel Berry poem, it doesn't necessarily set up a scene of like, it's not meant to like set a scene that you're inside of, be it a city where you're walking down alleys and there's, vines growing out of a brick wall, versus walking on ice and falling into ice and all that. It doesn't set things up that way, but it does achieve this piece that Snyder was talking about when Snyder's just musing on language and poetry, which has to do. What was the line Wendel Berry said? It was something like, "Do something." You're going to have to tell me. It was basically like break the rules today, or do something unexpected, or something like that he said. And that to me is that was a line that stood out and clicked with this conversation we're having, because to me that's that's kind of what Gary Snyder was getting at when he was talking about his practice with language and writing, and how he's trying to do something that is outside of the constraint, outside of how we typically view the natural world or view language or something. Do something unexpected, do something different. Do
something that won't compute.
That won't compute. That's what I really like that. I really like that line. Do something that won't compute. Like that's a challenge for me, to step outside of that and do something that won't compute. It's such a that like I'm having a feeling that like right now, like that's a risk. That what does that even mean? Everything. How do you even do something that won't compute? How do you get to that space? I'm like always weighing out the risks and rewards and thinking about the actions and outcomes. Like, but if it's not even going to commute, like, does that go beyond that? And is that even something I can? Is that saying to do something that I can't, fully understand or wrap my head around? Take a chance. It's interesting.
Yeah, I love where we're headed and how we're not. It's nice to take these two poems and put them side by side because there's a lot of love in both of them and they're accomplishing similar goals, but in very different ways. And I think we should move on and talk a little bit about Rote Meinhof. And maybe Bob could set the scene a little bit with that. Do you mind doing that for us, Bobo?
Be happy to. Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Dan told us that he has, I think, a poem by Ulrike Meinhof and Rote Meinhof. They're a group that formed in the 70s in Germany, like an underground group of, I don't know, whatever perspective you have, you call them something different, but they were basically revolutionaries and they formed out of the Germans' student movement of the 60s that was pushing for more progressive and youth-oriented and like more anti-war perspectives out of the German government. And like, the government targeted the student movement and killed some of the protesters, and that radicalized or made some of the groups more thinking about more militant tactics. And so the Rote Meinhof group were orchestrating bombings and kidnappings of like prominent people with power in Germany. And there's a movie about them, the Rote Meinhof complex, that I definitely recommend. And so, I think they were in network with other radicals across the world, perhaps the Black Panthers and others. I'm not totally sure about that, but I'm very curious to hear what kind of poetry came out of that group.
Well, so I actually don't have any poetry from that group, but you are exactly right. I did, when I was doing some research on them, I did see that the Black Panthers were like one of their top inspiration as far as their aesthetic, and they like there's some things you can find of the Black Panthers that are very like DIY zine type works. The artwork, I'm thinking of like a hand-drawn fist in the air or something like that. They very much liked that and took that aesthetic and used it in some of their work. I do know that. And I think what she, Meinhof, like what I read as far as her coming onto the scene, she was writing for the leftist magazine Concrete. Do you know that one, Bob?
I don't.
And she was writing about this like a violent situation between police and student protesters, where the police went overboard. This is another funny thing. They invoked a crowd control technique called the liver sausage method. So I have like I don't even know if I have a quick description of it. So it's named for its resemblance to a stuffed liver sausage. Law enforcement pushed demonstrators onto a long, tight sidewalk between barricades and buildings. They then formed a wedge and rushed the middle of the sausage, causing the demonstrators to push sideways out of the ends of the sausage.
Classic German.
Classic German, exactly. Right. so she wrote a response to it, and she started to outline all these different points of what she sees as not only calling out the police, but drawing the connection of the coverage and how the media is covering the protests, which is so, perfectly current to today, and how we often see news of, it's like Antifa versus the Proud Boys, and what it means to show video of people destroying property as a form of protest, rioting and looting, like all these words that get evoked by the media. So she was really critical of that, and I think I mentioned this last week, but she quoted this as the paradigms of veiling, and a way for the media to confuse viewers. It wasn't about reporting necessarily the facts as she saw it, but she believed that the media operated in this sphere of the performative, which became really interesting because then she took that and subverted it in a lot of their work. They took on the performativeness of, let's say, the Black Panther Party, where they're taking some of their artwork, and they started to really feel like they needed to make, have public demonstrations. You mentioned the bombings. I mean, that's pretty. Nothing is. It doesn't get much more. That I don't know. I'm just thinking about this now, but like how that as a performative act, and down to arson, to performative poetry, all kinds of stuff, right? And so I really like that. Like she identified this technique that the media was using, and then she flipped it on its head for her faction, as a way to critique that and have people see it in a different way, that they might realize what's happening. Of course, the three of us have had these conversations many times about the media in this way, but that's what I was thinking about with Meinhof.
Damn, that's really powerful. I mean, that like prefigures a lot of like work in the humanities, and like media studies and communication studies, around like how power maintains itself, and then like you're also saying like how this is very much the case in the media. I brought onto this show a few months ago the New York Times, basically talking about anarchists in these same terms, and creating these rhetorical structures in their pieces that set up anarchists as like very much wanting to cause property damage in Black Lives Matter protests, and taking over and casting anarchists against like the Black community in these ways that the way they write these articles, it makes it sound like there couldn't be a Black anarchist. There's white anarchists, and then there's the Black community. So yeah, even, the New York Times, I read the New York Times. I bet a lot of our viewers are doing these same things. And these are things that are really, they hurt the far left movements. They like create these conditions for the far left that allowed President 45 to say that, Antifa is equivalent to the Proud Boys. That should be just farcical, but it exists,
Gosh, totally. I mean, it's so, and what I think about a lot too is, how is it being consumed then? Because there are tactics, and there's, from the reporting side of things, to have, like you said, the New York Times, a news source that a lot of people in my circle and community definitely engage with at times, through interactions I've had with people. And then to think about this like fracturing of, right, there's the people on the left that read the New York. So there's a bunch of people on the left that read the New York Times. And then there's some that are reading that through a lens of what you just described and thinking about it critically of what it's doing to maybe fracture the movement in some way or misrepresent so as to cause harm. And then you have this discussion that might happen where you have somebody villainizing anarchist when you're like, wait a second, I thought we were, I thought we were in this together, and we thought that anarchist was this thing that was pushing the movement forward and doing a great job. But I go to this news source that I think that I quote unquote say is trusted, and they portray a certain image, and it just goes to the point of like, you have to. It's really a matter of thinking through every news source you read critically, varying where you get your news, and not getting stuck in that echo chamber or that bubble where you're just getting one type of news. But it's hard when the type of news, when you can't access certain news. I think that's just something I'm thinking about, access to these stories, or these stories that are critical of these mainstream stories, and telling other stories.
I love it. Yeah, I totally agree, Dan. Dave, looking at time, you have the last word on this.
Well, I'm going to leave you with a little nugget of the future. My brain sort of started wandering to where is the poetry right now and with active movements in the world. And I started thinking about the Zapatista movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. And one nugget that I came across was a woman named Lorna D. Cervantes, who kind of ties it all together in a lot of ways. She is she's worked at the University of Santa Cruz. She's worked at the University of Colorado Boulder, and she has written poems with the Zapatista movement in mind. And yeah, I'm sort of thinking about what that poetry might look like, and what is the future of this poetry and the poetry of activism go towards. And I think that there's always going to be, these movements are ripe for beautiful poetics, and that's, just want to leave that nugget with you guys and sort of move towards the end of the show.
It sounds good to me.
Perfect. So I have a quick quest for Dan. Dan, I'm going to give you 3 things, and you have to tell me which one of these 3 things is a lie. This is the Did You Know for the week. If that plays you all right, Danny boy.
Yeah, it's great. It's like a quiz of what we were just discussing.
Yep. Hey, did you know?
Hey, did you know?
Hey,
did you know?
Hey, did you know? So, here are your 3 things. The first one is the average cloud weighs 1.1 million pounds.
Whoa.
Number 2 is the largest manufacturer of tires in the world is Legos.
What?
And number 3, Bob, do you remember number 3?
Yeah, it was about the chicken.
Oh, there's a chicken, and his name is Miracle Mike the Chicken. He once lived for 18 months after his head was chopped off, and he traveled the world and had a great time.
Wow. Wait, but I feel like that could be too. That last one feels a little bit of a trick question when you kind of ad-libbed the end there, but that's right.
All right, cut off the thing, him having a great time, okay?
I know you, Dave. I know you.
Yeah.
I'm saying what is false, what is not true of those 3 statements?
2 truths and a lie for your Did You Know this week.
Okay, oh gosh, that's tricky. I think the chicken is true. I think that happened. I think I don't know why I've never heard of Legos as making tires, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's something like they're all tied up in one big corporate entity that like Firestone and Lego is all the same thing. And I don't know anything. I know nothing about the weight of cloud and really just how they work. I don't know. I just look up at them and I am fascinated.
Maybe sometimes spoken like a true poet.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm gonna say that a cloud doesn't weigh that. That's not the real weight of a cloud.
Well, Dan, that's a good guess, but I set you up to fail. All these things are true, and I was just taken aback.
Oh!
I know, it's unfair.
Davey,
that's a good lesson for me, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you spotted that I was setting you up for a trap somewhere, Dan, but you didn't quite see the trap. It was laid out for you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I think, Bob, you promised us a few of your 12 through 25. So I think we're going to skip the social coordinates on how to get in touch with us and just give the listeners and Danny some of the last of your list.
Okay. I mean, it's a like interesting portion of my list. So I'll give you like three bands that I think would be on there. And they are, the first one is the band The Clash. A great 80s band, punk band from the 80s. Another group that I would put on there would be, I'm going to say The Strokes. Would also be in that area.
Yes.
And my last one is, let's go with The Roots.
Ooh.
The Roots, The Clash, and The Strokes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I can see that, Bob.
Yeah, totally, right? Like I know Bob likes all those bands, but I'm not going to say they're in his top 5.
Yeah. These are not bands that you like really associate with me.
Yeah.
Well, I think on that note, we better leave you all go. Thanks for the week, Danny. I appreciate all the...
yeah, Dan, you blew our minds.
Yeah, it was great to have you on the show, and
it really was.
Appreciate connecting with you.
Yes, thank you both. It was great talking with you and connecting. I love this format, and I love what you all are doing with it.
Well, we'll see you on the episode 83 for the TLC.
And this might be the last episode of 2020 that gets published, so
wow,
that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. See you in 2021. All right, guys. Love you.
Love you all. Take care.
What's up, driving crew? Bob and Dave want to take a second to thank you for lending them your ears. They also want to thank the artists for making everything a little more beautiful. The intro song is In Heaven by Drake Stafford. Our audio is edited by the consummate and dexterous Nadir Chayech. Web design by Chris the Mixer Sawyer. And of course, visual art is by the prolific and enigmatic Joe Shine. And finally, our new outro song is a cover of Can't Help Falling in Love by our editor, Nadir. See you next week.